Howdy, folks. Charlie here from Christmas on Crestline. Thanks so much for tuning into this Christmas in July extravaganza interview. I'm very excited to have with me the Vice President of Light-O-Rama, Aubrey Kall. Could you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. So thank you for the introduction. I'm Aubrey Kall, and I work for Light-O-Rama as the Vice President, which means my hats include marketing, educational content, and working on business development, also known as Where's Light-O-Rama Going Next?
So how did you get started with Light-O-Rama?
Actually, I started with Light-O-Rama way back in 2012. So when I was a freshman in college, I'd been sequencing for about 3 years on my family's personal display. And I reached out on a whim to Chuck Smith, who worked for Light-O-Rama at the time, and asked if there was any way I could get involved with Light-O-Rama as a sequencer. And I was shocked that he replied back and said, sure, you can sequence for the store, the sequence store. We can try it out, see how it goes. And it kind of all stemmed from there. And I can't believe that I've been working with them in some capacity for over 10 years.
Very cool. That's kind of awesome. You just reached out and
Yep.
said, hey, can I help? And it kind of just started from there, just from a simple reaching out. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So Light-O-Rama deals mostly, but not always, but does deal with pixel lights. Could you tell us what in the world is a pixel light for those that don't know?
Sure. So I'm actually going to back up and explain the difference between the two kind of lights, because that's a very common question people have when starting out. So the term we use to refer to traditional lights a lot is an AC channel. So that's what Light-O-Rama started out with traditional lighting, with lights that you buy from Walmart or any other big box store. You plug it in, the whole strand turns on and off. Pixel lights are different because every single bulb on the strand can be controlled and turned a different color. And so Light-O-Rama sells both types of controllers. You can plug them in all to the same show, and you can have a really nice blend of whatever kind of lights you want.
And there is a big difference, between what you can get at Walmart, what you get commercial grade.
Absolutely.
So can you explain how the pixel light shows work? We all computerize Christmas light shows, but how exactly does that work?
So Light-O-Rama has a feature called motion effects. That's our version of how you create effects for your pixel props. If you put a pixel prop in what's called a preview, which is our version of a virtual layout for your display, so you can see where everything is on your house, you use motion effect rows to divide up the prop, saying, oh, I only want the top half of the tree to turn on right now, or only this spoke of the snowflake. And you can divide up the prop however you want, and then place the motion effect rows, place the motion effects on either the entire pixel tree at once, the entire snowflake, the entire candy cane, or you can break it up into those little segments.
How often does the software get updated? Is that annual? Is that every 3 years, every 5 years?
Sure. So the big releases, S4 to S5, S5 to S6, those are about every 3 or 4 years, where there's some major change that the developers decide, okay, this is a brand new number, this is a new release. There's plenty of little updates within each version, though. So for example, S5 currently is on 5.6.8. So they've had multiple revisions, 5.1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so those revisions come out whenever the developers have enough content to warrant a new release. So every few months, but they try not to do it during the busy Christmas light season. It's okay, stay on the version you're on for this Christmas.
Very cool. And so for the hardware, how does that evolve? Does that get updated as well frequently, or how does that evolve?
Well, right now is an interesting situation for everybody in this industry. So the engineers have plans for next generation pixel controllers, next generation show players, and the supply chain and COVID kind of threw a wrench in all of that. So it's a little bit hard to get the pieces that they originally wanted to use, and they're looking into other options and want to just make sure that whatever they do design, we can get in the quantities we need to, so that we don't release a product and then disappoint our customers. So we're making sure that the supply chain will be able to provide us for what we need before we release those additional products.
Very cool. So yeah, you nailed it. Well, I went to Trans World Christmas Light Show 2 years ago. They were saying then, said, hey, we don't recommend panic buying, but we're telling you to panic buy because the computer chip shortage and just the shortage on so many different things in the supply chain.
Right.
Is that adversely affecting you guys pretty much right now too?
Well, we've got a good stock of a lot of our products because our owner's really on top of things with buying parts and getting inventory. So really trying to focus on making sure we have our core products available to the best of our abilities right now instead of focusing on new products.
What's the biggest piece of advice that a first-time animator should take to heart when you're talking about shortages, hardware, software? What do they really need to take to heart, do you think?
So this is actually one of my favorite questions. And I think that new animators in the industry get so overwhelmed by the displays that they see on YouTube or the people they meet at conferences that have 20,000 pixels and an acre big show. And it's everybody started at the beginning. They started with one controller, a few elements in their yard. And so nobody started with that 20,000 pixels in their first year. And that is not what you need to achieve in your first year either. Start small, start manageable, get the hang of it, and build up.
So learn the tech, learn the software, learn the hardware, learn what you need, what you don't need, start small, then build from there, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. One step at a time.
Very nice. You were a sequencer before you became the president of Light-O-Rama. What's the
vice president
biggest part of being a professional sequence programmer?
Well, what I really loved about doing that for the past 10 years is the variety of displays I've gotten to work on. So I work with drive-throughs, I work with houses, typical houses. I think the most memorable one was a birthday party I did for a 2-year-old in a living room. It's just so interesting to see the displays, the layouts that people pick. And that's what I really loved about working as a sequencer.
That's awesome. Because in my mind, I'd be like, my 2-year-old's not going to remember this birthday party, but you did it for a party for a 2-year-old. That's amazing.
Well, and the songs that were chosen were the Batman theme and Fireball by Pitbull. So I was also not expecting that.
That's awesome. Light-O-Rama has a certified partner program. What is that all about?
Yep. So there's a few companies on our website that are called certified partners, which means they've got a lot of experience using our equipment, programming shows, designing shows. So since we as Light-O-Rama are focused on selling the hardware, getting the software out, developing the hardware and software, we don't do layout designs for parks or custom sequencing because there are thousands of people that want that. And we need to focus on what we do best. And so that's how the certified partner program was born, is all these companies that do those extra customized pieces.
That's a great point. Where Six Flags, Disney, Worlds of Fun, Holiday World, they all want things, but the show's probably pretty humongous. So you stick with what you know, and you make you guys are an industry leader now because you do exactly that. You say it again.
We've been around for 20 years.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And that was back before it was cool to be in the business. It's kind of blowing up right now. So you wear 2 hats. You got president of Light-O-Rama, and you are an entrepreneur with Luminous Harmony. What was the big surprise going from Luminous Harmony and jumping to vice president of Light-O-Rama?
It was so hard for me to make this decision initially to put on the second hat because I was sad to see my time as a professional sequencer kind of come to an end a little bit. And I was wondering if I would like the new role, if I would miss sequencing as much. But that's been the biggest surprise, is how much I've loved this new role and all of the different projects I get to be involved with and all of the business development ideas. And the owner of Light-O-Rama, Dan Baldwin, has been awesome to work with in terms of freedom of letting me have my ideas and saying, okay, make it happen. And I have. So I still do limited sequencing for the people who have been with me for years and years, but my focus is really over on Light-O-Rama right now.
That's awesome. That's all. And you made what we all love, our all passion. You made it a career. That's phenomenal.
I love it.
There's first timers. There's lots of forums out there to help people with sequencing, with what software, what power injection to get. Why are the forums helpful? And what forum should a first timer be looking at or go to for help, do you think?
So before they even get to the forums, there's an article on the Light-O-Rama website that says, I'm new, what do I do? And there's a link to it right from the homepage. So that is a fantastic place to start out, to get some of the terminology, start to see how the big picture works together. And then there's the official Light-O-Rama forums, which is a typical forum page, and the official Facebook group, which is a great way to reach out to the community and say, okay, I've read the terminology. I kind of got an idea of what's going on. Here's my questions about how to get started. And we're got a really strong community of people that are more than willing to jump in and answer questions. And so it takes a little bit of the burden off of our shoulders in the help desk.
Sequencing, hardware, software, it's all there.
Yep.
And I've been doing a YouTube show here for 4 or 5 years, and people are very excited when I announced that you're going to be on for an interview for this year's Christmas in July extravaganza event. And I was just inundated. I was flooded with questions for you. And I thought I'd take one question that maybe people will be interested in. Rob, KU Rob, reached out and said he's having a problem with the ports and he's getting frustrated with it. And he said, could you please ask what's the best piece of advice to avoid port errors or damage? Can you speak to that at all?
Sure. He's probably talking about the RJ45 ports on the AC controllers, which is what the Cat5 lines plug into, so that you can daisy chain all of your controllers together in the show. And it's very common that we get people who write into the help desk saying, hey, my port's broken. It's not plugging in anymore. And you have to send it in for repair. And that's actually because people aren't plugging in and unplugging their cords properly. So those ports are designed to be breakaway if something pulls on them or damages them, so that it doesn't ruin the whole controller. So if you don't push down the Cat5 line connector piece all the way and you yank it, you're going to end up damaging your controller. Or if you have your Cat5 lines hanging off of your controller, not very well protected, squirrel comes along, rabbit comes along, sits on the line, they're going to pull it out. So really make sure that those cords are anchored in well and that you're fully pressing down before you release. Otherwise, you'll end up damaging your controller.
See, and to me, that's just another pulling the curtain back, looking behind the scenes, and they're actually designed to break away so it doesn't damage the whole unit because of squirrels, rabbits, like you said.
Yep.
That's a brilliant designing, if you ask me.
Yep. It's a simple replacement to fix them. It's just there's a lot people can do to avoid it in the first place. Just don't tug on your cords.
Anything new and cool? Christmas Expo, maybe? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, we're actually making 2 big announcements at Christmas Expo about new products and that we're going to be coming out with a little bit later this fall. So I hope everybody has a chance to come to Expo and see those firsthand in our new interactive classroom, which we've never done before. So really excited for the new style of teaching and all of the presenters that we have on board this year. I think there's 12 different presenters for Light-O-Rama content this year. So really excited to do something different and hope everybody enjoys it.
Very cool. Well, I know some of our viewers are in fact going to Christmas Expo this year, and
Perfect.
I'm sure they'll be excited that you're there. They're excited you're coming on the show. Thank you so much for taking the course today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I'm Charlie, and we'll see you in the next video.